Bet you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for overnight, to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. When you hear, called it, when you hear no motive is established at this time, or no motive is known at this time, we have not established a motive at this time. That is, when you've been around as long as I have, you learn to speak the language, and that loosely translates in status speak to it doesn't fit the media narrative. So we can't give you the answer you want. Rest assured, folks, if that shooter was a MAGA bomber or something yesterday, you would have heard of it right off the drop, okay? But that was not the case. So immediately you know that the shooter's profile does not fit the description. As we know, there's a lot to go through today, so I'm going to spin through as fast as I can. As you know, Joe Manchin, or maybe you don't know, Joe Manchin has the audacity to represent his voters and keep his promises, and he is a no on gun control. So Joe Biden, the White House just moments ago said Joe Biden will consider executive action since they cannot pass it with Kamala as the +1. All right, so they can't afford to lose any, and same thing's true on the Republican side. You cannot afford to lose any Republican votes on a bill like this. As I told Mitch the idiot, they will absolutely vaporize the filibuster. They will vaporize the 60-vote rule. They will vaporize all the rules and norms they said they held dear that were on jeopardy under Donald Trump for the last 4 years to get through their agenda. The media has been doing their level best to cover every single shooting that is not an inner city gun violence case. No 17-year-olds murdered in the autonomous zones for George Floyd, established for George Floyd's memory, where police couldn't even get in to render assistance. No gun violence. Basically, if the gun was not supplied by a gun show in Florida or some gun store in Arkansas, all right, because inner city guns are not. They are not. That is a myth. That is a fabrication. Those are supplied, for anyone with street smarts knows, those are supplied by typically corrupt government officials, corrupt organized crime, who corrupted government officials. That is where those guns come from. That is organized crime and theft. Right? So that clearly did not fit the media narrative yesterday. So when you hear that, we still don't know what the motive was for the Vegas shooter.
Yeah,
we still don't have a motive for him. One day he's in a pink vagina hat. The next day he's gunning down country fans.
Mm.
We still don't have a motive for that. Isn't that amazing? It's incredible. The FBI, local law enforcement, the finest law enforcement organization in the world, still can't establish a motive for him. And if it wasn't for alternative media, like People's Pundit Daily, who got on James Hoskins' Facebook page, we wouldn't know that either. By the way, at People's Pundit Daily for a while, we have had certain policies for covering mass shootings. And there is a reason why. The only reason why we may discuss someone's profile or character is to discuss their motive if we believe that it is relevant to the political discourse and if we believe that it's already been out there. So fact of the matter is, we still, most times, even if we know certain things, will not report it for good reason, which we're going to go over in a second. Unfortunately, the media has decided en masse to cover these events in a way that helps them and helps their ideology. And they don't really care the damage that it might have. And I want to go over this because going back to Parkland, we explained some of our policies and why we do cover things the way we do. And because it is a data journalism website, you would think some of those policies follow sound data. Or at least they should. Otherwise, I'm not doing a very good job. Mm-hmm. So I want to read you something because after a while, you have to, a thinking person, once you know this, what I'm going to tell you right now, once you know it, you cannot help but to cast doubt on the sincerity of media and their coverage of mass shootings. You cannot help but to wonder whether or not deep down they like these events. It helps them help their preferred party push their preferred legislation. We all know they want to get rid of the Second Amendment. They don't want to restrict it. They want to get rid of it. Because if you give people like this an inch, they will take a foot. It is a restriction one day and is an abolition the next day. Just like the 16th Amendment was never supposed to be permanent. Which you may not know. All right? Let's go back to 2018. When Joe Biden still thought he was the vice president. Remember that? Okay. I'm going to read this almost en masse because it matters. All right? Following the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, CNN held a town hall. They invited the now embattled, and now disgraced, by the way, just to get up to date, now disgraced Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel, who they lauded as a hero. Remember?
Yes.
He was their hero, their gun control advocate, their cop, the one cop who actually praised anti-Second Amendment proposals. Of course, those of us in Florida knew who Scott Israel was. He was and has been and always was a partisan hack who always pissed off some corner of Broward County somewhere with his big mouth. All right, so he's a known gun control activist. He was, at the time, a known gun control activist. Now he's disgraced. And this is the man CNN chose to put up against the big, bad NRA spokeswoman, Dana Lash, the evil Dana. Okay? He is a gun control supporting member of the community and has been for a long time. A donor to Democratic campaigns. An advocate for Democratic campaigns. All right? They had this town hall.
And we said in here, the perpetrator's name, which will not be mentioned here, and we will not mention the one yesterday that was revealed yesterday, was spoken aloud countless times at that debate, at that town hall, which they said was a town hall, but it really was not. It was like everyone gang up on Dana Lash, all right? CNN put its political agenda first, and it disguised it as a town hall meant to further the discussion on school safety. Given the wealth of data collected by academics and law enforcement agencies studying the phenomena, it's time for Americans to demand that media outlets acknowledge their role in school shootings and mass killings. It's time for Americans to demand they take responsibility and proactive measures to minimize the likelihood of a prior mass killing inducing another. Because they have been, in the last few weeks, in case you haven't noticed, they have been all over the country while Democrats push this gun control measure, trying to find something that they can qualify as a mass shooting to put all over the national headlines. Oliver Darcy is a dishonest, disingenuous fraud. CNN is not covering it because they're a news organization and Fox News is not. They are covering it because they are trying to help their political party pass a piece of legislation. Period. It's the opposite of journalism. They cover all these events and they ignore hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of inner city murders weekend after 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 weekend.
I think
whole family lineages wiped out on the streets of Chicago. They don't give a damn. An 18-year-old in need of medical attention and police assistance on the curb, sucking for oxygen and dying for a drink of water, bleeding out in the George Floyd Autonomous Zone 2 weeks ago. They don't care about that. Before we get into the data, let's first define what we're talking about when we say, let's set a few parameters when we talk about a mass shooting. A mass shooting is properly defined as a public shooting in which one or more perpetrators with a firearm murders at least 4 victims. Researchers in the field have argued the modern phenomena of mass shootings began in 1966 with the tragic incident at the University of Texas. Let me just stop for a second. 250 years. The Second Amendment and its principles in general have been prevalent in this land. Yet mass shootings just started during the counterculture era. The hippie, drug-induced, counterculture, non-thinking, sex-having, STD-spreading era of our parents.
Yes.
You're kidding me, right?
It was smart to strike.
So is it the Second Amendment or is it us? Right off the bat. Your data, simply, you cannot get past that. You can't get past it. With empirical evidence, you cannot get past it. Mass murders have been around for a long time. In fact, prior to the Obama era, the greatest mass murder was a bomb in a school. An employee killed a bunch of kids and staff. He chose to use another tool, even though guns were readily available to him. So if the phenomena of mass shooting, experts agree, began in 1966, how on earth is restricting or abolishing the Second Amendment going to get to the heart of the problem? Since the Second Amendment predates the modern phenomena of mass shooting. Or is it just that we're sick in our heads? We have a deep sickness in the society and we're too cowardly to talk about it. It's also important to note that the data used in these studies may vary. For instance, one study may have isolated 18 to 29-year-olds, while others reviewed all ages for potential copycats. Some studies included suicidal perpetrators, while others did not. Nevertheless, the academic and law enforcement consensus on mass shootings and coverage of mass shootings is crystal clear. The media inspires copycats. in both mass shootings and in school shootings and mass murder events. Period. End of story. Both things can be true at once, folks. You can blame the shooter and still believe in personal responsibility while also acknowledging that the media has a role in making these people feel like this is some glorious event where they can go down and spew their what's the word I'm looking for? Manifesto.
Yeah.
Whatever, right, the glory. Whatever they want to get glory for. And push their ideas. Both things can be true. You can blame the guy who showed up at the baseball field and shot Steve Scalise and 4 others. You can blame him while also blaming the media for telling him that Donald Trump was a Russian spy who, if we don't get rid of him immediately, may compromise the White House and everyone in it. We can also say that he believed Elizabeth Warren when Elizabeth Warren said that millions of Americans will die if Steve Scalise and Republicans get their way and repeal Obamacare. Both things can be true. You are, of course, ultimately still responsible for your own actions. But when law enforcement and academia are running to these media outlets year after year after year after year for decades now, folks, decades, and telling them that you are helping these people, you are glorifying them, and you are making them want to be a mass shooter. And then you don't make an editorial decision to change. You don't have to ignore the damn story. Nobody is saying to ignore it, but you glorify it because it helps you ideologically. You chose your ideology over those people's lives. You chose the potential to hinder or abolish the Second Amendment. You chose that over their right to breathe. The media is the contagion, not the solution. At least not yet. That being said, not all media outlets have refused to take responsibility. Much to their credit, Mark Fallman and Becca Andrews of all places. Mother Jones, if you go back, they have done great work on this, documenting originally what we called the Columbine effect. On April 20th, 1999, 2 teenage boys fatally shot 13 people and injured 24 others at Columbine High School in Littleton, Colorado. The Mother Jones investigation found the shooting inspired, guys, are you ready? At least 74 plots or attacks across 30 states. In at least 14 cases, Columbine copycats plotted their attacks on the anniversary of the original massacre. And this is quote, individuals in 13 cases indicated that their goal was to outdo the Columbine body count, unquote. That's what they wrote. End quote again. In at least 10 cases, the suspects and attackers referred to the pair who struck in 1999, name redacted and name redacted, as heroes, idols, martyrs, or even, this is my own ad lib, back to quote, God. And at least 3 plotters made pilgrimages to Columbine High School from other states, unquote. Since Columbine, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has been devoted to researching the potential cases of copycats. This is before they spent a lot of time climbing up telephone poles outside of Trump Tower. Because again, the FBI again dropped the ball here. Are we supposed to believe after a while the FBI is just this incompetent? I'm not sure I believe that anymore. They had indications. Again, Laura, again. 2 mass shootings in Florida. 2 we know of where the FBI had information and did nothing. It's like every time these events happen, we get the everyone knew spiel. Everyone knew, including law enforcement agencies, and did nothing. By the way, CNN's hero, Scott Israel, he knew about that piece of trash too. They all did. But for Scott Israel, gun control was more important than the lives of high school children. So don't lecture me on morality when it comes to the Second Amendment.
But they
do not even dare. All right. Well, hold on. Let's get through this real quick, okay?
I got you.
All right, since Supervisory Special Agent Andre Simmons previously led a team of agents and psychology experts that researched more than 400 of these cases. Quote, they do this to claim credit and to articulate the grievance behind the attack. And we believe they do it to heighten the media attention that will be given to them, the infamy and the notoriety they believe they'll derive from the event. Unquote. No, basically, they got the media's number. In some way, maybe they know it consciously, maybe they know it subconsciously. They know the media in their race to take your liberty away will choose to be dangerous, not only irresponsible, will choose to be dangerous to public safety. How dare these people lecture anybody on public safety? In response, the FBI proposed, and you may know this, you may have heard of this before, but originally, the Don't Name Them campaign. Don't name them. Similarly, Tom and Karen Teeves, whose son Alex was among the 12 killed at the movie theater in Aurora, Colorado by the piece of crap in 2012, proposed a no notoriety campaign. What they did was they were parents who lost a child and took a look at this and said, whoa, why do we keep doing this? Over and over and over and over. Maybe we need to do it differently. Maybe, you know what? The FBI told us this already. Academia told us this already. Why do we cover these events like this? Maybe my child would still be alive. Academic research corroborates the assessment of law enforcement agencies though the Columbine effect is referred to as a contagion. Contagion in Mass Killings and School Shootings was published in 2015. It concluded there was, quote, significant evidence that mass killings involving firearms are incented by similar events in the immediate past, unquote. And here, quote again. On average, this temporary increase in probability lasts 13 days. And each incident incites at least 0.30 new incidents, p equals 0.0015. For my statistics people out there. We also find significant evidence of contagion in school shootings, for which an incident is contagious for an average of 13 days. And incites an average of at least 0.22 new incidents. A little bit less, but P still equals 0.001. A little bit less than regular, just non-school shooting mass events. All right, so unquote. 13 days. How long ago was Georgia? How long ago was CNN's breathless coverage of Atlanta? Worth noting, this study excluded foiled plots. Excluded them. Meaning, it really is worse. Where individuals were caught actively planning a shooting, but had not yet carried out their plan. They also stressed that it is difficult to accurately assess how high of a percentage media-induced copycats represent because so many of the perpetrators kill themselves. Meaning later on, we don't get the self-described manifesto, the self-professed manifesto. We don't get the killer, the shooter, in their own words. And by the way, what they said before, which was, the perpetrators being caught beforehand, we actually did try to quantify that. And it was about 21 days if you consider everybody. But it was difficult because we weren't sure we had all of these cases. So roughly, though, about 3 weeks if you consider people who were caught. That's why it feels like, it seems like these shootings roll one after the other. God, wasn't there just a shooting the other day? When are they going to do something about that damn NRA? How many more? When is enough enough? It seems like that because the media is the contagion. because it's contagious. It seems like that because it is like that. And the media plays a key role in doing it. Without them, the contagion is not present in the environment. Do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe that sheds a little light on why the modern phenomena of mass shootings began with the University of Texas in 1966. Maybe that at least helps shed some light. We can put that in the corner. We can put a pin in that one, all right? Along with drug-induced counterculture. Mass killings in the United States from 2006 to 2013. Social contagion, or random clusters, was published even more recently in 2017 and questioned the short-term contagion. However, the study warned of an even longer-term copycat effect. Indeed, many perpetrators cited events that took place before they were even born. Reducing Media-Induced Mass Killings, Lessons from Suicide Prevention, published, which was the most recent up until Parkland in 2018, was even more conclusive. Generalized imitation requires the presence of some model to prompt imitation. And we suggest media reporting methods as a prominent model, inspiring future mass killings. In other words, yeah, by the way, we're not speculating. We're not even going to say. The relationship is so strong, we propose the media, the mass murderers. James N. Mendel and Jonathan W. Ivey, the authors of the study, go on to, quote, evaluate media reporting guidelines, end quote, and imitation behaviors, quote, to identify reactive and proactive strategies that could minimize the likelihood of one mass killing inducing another, quote, unquote. Yet another study, don't name them, don't show them, but report everything else, not only found that media-induced events are real, but that they're also more deadly than organic, natural mass shooting events. So when you have an original thought person, they're actually less deadly than those inspired by the ideologically corrupt media. These fame-seeking offenders are particularly dangerous because they kill and wound significantly more victims than other active shooters. They often compete for attention by attempting to maximize victim fatalities, and they can inspire contagion and copycat effects. However, if the media changes how they cover mass shooters, they may be able to deny many offenders the attention they seek and deter some future perpetrators from attacking, unquote. I just want to say something real quick before we get into this. The media jumped all over the MAGA bomber. Why weren't there more? Ask yourself for a second. They did everything wrong in that coverage. Why? Because they wanted more bombers. They wanted more Trump-supporting, hillbilly, racist bombers to run around killing black and brown people. Of course they do. Of course they do. So why weren't there more? If this relationship, it's not even a relationship, if the evidence is this strong, and it is, why weren't there more MAGA bombers? Maybe because he didn't represent the population the media tried to cast him with. In other words, he was the exception, the gross exception. Whereas and I'm not going to say names, whereas some of the others we have been talking about, to include the one from yesterday, belongs to a totally different group altogether. And they're not rare or as rare. These findings have palpable implications. Big media, a term we use at People's Pundit Daily to refer to the cartel of corporate media outlets have always been supportive of the gun control agenda. That not so subtle support generally took the form of an anti-NRA or anti-Second Amendment storytelling narrative. But in recent years, it has transformed into production news and blatant activism, as we saw with the CNN town hall. And by the way, since I wrote this, that CNN town hall, where should we put that? In the Hall of Shame? Or should it win some kind of award for CNN being bold enough to hold a town hall with Scott Israel and Dana Lash, packing the crowd with people who agree with Scott Israel, a now discredited piece of trash responsible for the death of many children. In their desire to strike at gun rights while the iron is hot, they ignore all impact their coverage may have on deeply alienated students prone to committing these acts, let alone the causes of their alienation. What's that?
That sentence alone, strike while the iron.
That's what they do.
It's disgusting.
That's what they do, though, Lord. That's what that is
know,
clearly.
but I'm just
It's
saying.
not even debatable. It's in. I mean,
It's in it.
it's in the numbers. They do this, and they act as a contagion. And there's no other explanation, because what I'm telling you, folks, is that they are told this. They know this. Law enforcement agencies, state, local, and federal, and academics, they know this. They just don't give a damn. You understand? They care more about their ideology than they do about your life or your child's life. So come at me, Oliver. Tell me more about how morally superior you are. Americans must start to ask themselves whether they will allow big media to put their political agenda over the safety of our children and loved ones. In turn, big media executives and journalists must start to ask themselves whether their political agenda is more important than their children and their loved ones. And that's the end of the article. And I would say again, key takeaways here. Media is the contagion, and they know. And then also the modern phenomena of mass shootings began in 1996. The Bill of Rights has been around a little bit longer than that. Deadly firearms have been around a lot longer than that. I mean, you can use scary words like assault rifles all you want, but really, an AR-15, a scary AR-15, is nothing but a semi-automatic rifle. An AR does not stand for assault rifle.
Thank you.
I mean, part of this is Thomas Jefferson. If we could resurrect him right now, he would tell us a big part of our problem when it comes to the gun issue is that we're not acting as responsible citizens. For every right, a citizen has an equal or greater duty. And sector of our population who are weak. You want the truth? They're weak. And they want a police force or a government or a daddy or a mommy or a teat somewhere to help them and nurture them and feed them and save them and protect them. And they have no interest in learning and stopping their cycle of ignorance. If you think there are assault rifles rampant in the streets of the United States, you are an ignorant idiot. If you think AR is a weapon of war, you're ignorant.
Go to war with it and see how long you last.
It is a semi-automatic rifle. The only reason, by the way, it's like, oh, well, the military uses
I
it.
know.
They use certain versions of it because the United States is about accuracy, not round size. And that round is smaller than a Kalashnikov round.
Yes.
The reason why they only have 3 round bursts is because when you crank it up to fully auto, it's not accurate anymore.
Yeah. And I'd rather be accurate.
If you want a fully automatic weapon, ask your squad who's carrying the saw. I mean, that's an automatic weapon.
There you go.
A 240 Bravo is an automatic weapon.
Now we're talking.
An M4 or an M10, whatever model version of you have, is not an assault rifle, or is not a it is not a weapon of war. It is no different. Its firing capacity is no different than any other semi-automatic handgun. One squeeze, one round. That capacity, that capability, has been around for a long time. Before mass shootings began as a modern phenomenon, right along, so has the Bill of Rights. So why did this phenomenon begin in recent American history? And I would...
Because it's a power grab
If though. No, I mean, why did it begin? It's because we're a society. We're sick, Laura. As a society, we are sick. The counterculture did not do well for this society.
No.
I'm not saying that there weren't things wrong and needed to be addressed during that era. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying the way to address problems is not to delude yourself in crazy thinking and, alternative realities induced by long-lasting periods of drug use. And, I mean, we have created this sickness where we have really what it comes down to, and it's funny because the counterculture was about anti-Vietnam and human life and don't kill, but really we devalued human life over this time period, and that's what this really comes down to. When human life is no longer valued the way it has been, then you become as a society more barbaric. And it doesn't matter whether they have access to an AR-15, an M10, whatever model you have, or they have access to ammonia and fertilizer, or styrofoam and gasoline. You're never going to take this stuff out of society. We have a huge sector of the population who's ignorant to it because they're perfectly fine surrendering some of their liberty for a little bit, or a lot of their liberty, for a whole lot, for a little bit of security. Which, by the way, how'd that work out for you? How did your daddies and mommies at the FBI do for you? Not very well.
I mean, whistles.
They failed those
right?
people
Didn't
again.
they give whistles?
They failed those people again. No, I mean at preventing the damn attack.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
How did Scott Israel did he hold up his end of the bargain to the families in Parkland? Did the FBI hold up their end of the bargain to the families of the Pulse nightclub shooting? Did the family hold up their end of the did the FBI hold up their end of the bargain to citizens in the shooting yesterday in Colorado? Or Georgia, whatever, blah, 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 blah.
And so on and so on.
And by the way, they were dying for this person. They were dying for them to be a Trump-supporting, China-hating. But, they're so blind to the country. It wasn't exactly a redneck city. Maybe if they left these metro areas once in a while, they would have known right off the jump what the likelihood of this person being somebody they wanted it to be was nil. All right. With that in mind, 11:40. That took up about 10 minutes more than the segment it should have. But it's important, guys.
No, this is
It's
very important.
very
Second Amendment
important.
is the only thing that protects you from government in itself. So
It's not there on accident. And if you have the argument that it's about public safety, you also have to be able to acknowledge the media. By the way, the media has no moral authority to make any argument whatsoever about public safety. That's a key here, guys. They are part of the problem. They are the contagion right now. They are the most significant, the prominent, the predominant vehicle for spreading the contagion. They have no moral authority whatsoever to lecture you if you are a gun rights proponent. They have no moral authority to lecture you whatsoever. None. And by the way, the Slimer over at 538 put a whole group of people, 6 months, they studied this, hoping to show for Democrats, because that's what Nate does. Nate is a narrative builder. Whether it's polls, whether it's gun control, whatever. That's why Nate's allowed to run in the red year after year, because he provides them a service. Mm-hmm. But as we know from the op-ed in the Washington Post from somebody who no longer worked for him, they couldn't do it. Because there was no relationship between stricter gun control measures and reduced gun violence. Most gun violence, first of all, has nothing to do with these weapons whatsoever. Remove suicides, you really start to see that poll shrink. And since we're not allowed to talk about inner city gun violence, what the hell are we talking about?
Well, that doesn't fit the narrative.
Because these, as horrific of events as they are, they do not represent a fraction of the gun violence events in this country. Go ahead, Laura.
I just have a question for you.
Hit me.
If I have a gun and you have a gun.
Hit me.
Right? Are you going to be more and indignant to the other individual, or would you respect them more and be more kind because of the fact that you respect?
Oh, yes. You mean like basic etiquette in society.
Yes.
When people can. Well, we had the Wild West in the 1800s, and we had certain rules. I mean, places were lawless. But you take a place like, and by the way, Wyatt Earp, as much as I love him, was like the beginning of gun control. I mean, he did not let anybody come into that town with a gun. But it was lawless. We're not talking about that kind of social
No, but
contract.
I'm just saying, in general, though,
Laura,
are
we
you
have
going to
lived
go
in
rob a house
gun-carrying
that
states.
somebody who has a gun
Laura,
and will blow your brains out? Or
I
are you
understand
gonna
where you're
rob
coming
somebody
from.
else's house?
We have lived in gun control states which are violent and have serious problems. New York, New Jersey, they have very serious problems. They're very violent, and they have issues. And we have lived in states where we, included, openly carry firearms. There is, without a shadow of doubt, a difference. Mm-hmm. You don't even need to be a statistician. If you go to a diner in New Jersey, you are much more like, or in, let's give me a town, where it's like Elizabeth or something. Mm-hmm. All right. If you were to go to a diner in E-Town, you are much more likely to get into a confrontation. I'm just saying, like, people don't respect, like, what Laura's saying is true. So they know there's no consequences for their actions. It's just like anything in the animal kingdom. If you know the opportunity is there and you can, like, get a whiff of blood, then everyone surrounds and a frenzy ensues. I mean, that's just, we are still part of the animal kingdom, sadly. But if you know that you can't pick on somebody, you can't bully somebody, you can't victimize somebody because they're going to defend themselves. Like, for instance, do you think Trayvon Martin would have jumped on George Zimmerman and started beating him if he knew George Zimmerman had a gun? Come on. Do we really have to speculate on that? The fact of the matter is, like Jefferson said, you want this right, you want this liberty, then you have a duty to educate yourself and participate. It is a civic duty. You want a Second Amendment, you need a population that understands and respects that. Mm-hmm. You can't just ignore it and say, you know what? Because the Europeans used to look at us as barbaric. And they say, oh, those Americans, God, you see them, they carry all those 6-shooters everywhere, and they're so barbaric.
Our son respects his gun.
We started teaching, look, just from our point of view, we started teaching our children very young about firearms. Mm-hmm. And he would never touch a firearm without our blessing. He respects it now. He understands its power, and he understands his responsibility.
Yes, he does.
He understands. You have to do that. I know everybody's philosophy is different, but the fact of the matter is, you cannot have a right if you do not acknowledge the duty that comes along with that right. You will lose it, as Jefferson said, or he warned. You will lose it. And everyone loves these like cute little quotes, but Franklin was also right. If you're willing to sacrifice some of your rights for safety, you will get neither.
Yep.
You don't deserve, nor will you get it. You're basically subcontracting your freedom to somebody else. And it's not working, is it?
Nope.
After everything we've learned about some of these law enforcement agencies, especially federal, who would be foolish enough to put their right to life and to put their freedom in their hands? You got to be a fool. I'm sorry. I'm not saying this to call names. Maybe you're not as highly educated as you think you are. You learned the wrong thing along the way. All right. It's 11:46. Damn, we're almost at the top of the hour. You know what? Now's a great time to give an update on the public polling project,
yes.
which I just saw anyway. I saw a couple of notifications for.
Can I say real quick?
This-
Thank
oh,
you.
yeah.
Thank you guys for being so sweet and worried
Well
about
wishes
me.
yesterday,
Yeah, your
yeah.
well wishes. Richie told me about it, and I appreciate it. I hate migraines. They suck.
Yeah, Laura has, she suffers from migraines, periodic migraines. She's one of those, and
Lucky ones.
I've even learned all the pressure points. You know,
I love
sometimes if
him
you
for it.
can cut it off at the, if you can
Beginning.
head it off, yeah, maybe, but you know, you can prevent it or at least minimize its impact. But I didn't this time, so you know,
You can't win them all, baby.
yeah. All right, so here we are on the public polling project. Well, first of all, there's no doubt we have to thank certain people for supporting it, and that certainly helps. But there is, without a doubt, we were having a really good run over the weekend, even before others got involved. And we started to see what you guys reported, those issues. And that was because of the way there was multiple ways to pay with credit card, and there was terms of use was not. Each of those options had a checkbox to agree to the terms and conditions. And the terms and conditions are basically simple. This is not tax deductible, and it doesn't guarantee you the right to ask a question on the questionnaire. All right? We take everybody's input. This is a group effort, right? So basically, that's it. But each one of those payment methods had a terms and conditions box that had to be clicked. Even if you didn't choose it, it wouldn't allow you to swap or click both because both needed to be checked to be able to proceed. So we had a hiccup, and we missed out, I guess, on a lot of donations. A lot of people asked where to mail them to, and then some of them mailed them to the wrong address. We have to contact you guys about it. I mean, 123 Not a Real Street.
Sorry.
Come on, guys. I love you, but really? All right? Don't worry. I'm gonna work with them to chase some of this down. And then if it went to the office in Florida, that's going to be forwarded eventually to us anyway. But we are going to contact you when we get them. And we're going to ask you what do you want to do. Because we initially thought of this, and I talked to Robert about this. You know, not a lot of people have a lot of, money to be doing this like we did before the election. So I thought maybe, what if this was a quarterly thing? So the the big data, public polling project, spring survey, or something like that, right? But if this continues, we may be able to do this monthly. Mm-hmm. This is not counting the checks that are in the mail. You guys can see the goal, and you guys know we hit that goal, and still, a lot of people are still contributing. We're about 1/6 of the way to the next goal. Which is awesome. It's incredible. So maybe what we'll do, well, not maybe, we will put it toward the next project, but based on the rate at which we accomplish that. So basically, the spring, March, April survey is funded. Congratulations, it's funded. We're done. And then we will move on to the April, May, and if we do hit that, we'll do one for April and May. If not, we'll save it for the summer. We'll call this one the spring. But I really think at this rate, that's going to happen. So at a grand total, let me refresh because I did just see. Sometimes the form takes some time to update. As of now, the grand total raised so far is $6,850. Don't forget, guys, you can check your anonymous on there. I did just see the last one that went through, or last couple. We're done as two out of 3. We're done as anonymous. That's fine. All right. We had 126 contributions. That's fantastic. We did hit that goal. We'll move that. It's more, like I said, it's actually more than 850 over, because we do have, I know, the post office bringing some other contributions. I will take that and I will put that into the next one based on the rate. We'll see when that next one will be. Okay. So, I also may or may not add a Republican primary question for 2024, since we do now have a fully funded where I could add it. Maybe it won't be the entire sample, but it will definitely be a large enough sample. You know me, you know that. It will certainly, well, and when I say large enough, I mean large enough for me. I don't mean large enough for CNN or large enough for anybody else. I mean for me, which is a much higher standard. The overall survey, the general survey, which will be of registered voters. Who the hell cares what adults think? Adult only. Registered voter survey, 2,000. Views on the Biden administration, issues, and economic sentiment. And I may very well put in there, if Congress fails to pass gun control measures, I may add this. If Congress fails to pass gun control measures, do you believe Joe Biden has the power to unilaterally enact the measures? Who creates laws in this country, Joe? Jesus, you've been here for 4 decades. Who creates laws in this country? If Congress failed to pass the law, the President of the United States does not have the authority to just unilaterally sign an executive action.
What if that was President
Let's play
Trump?
the Imagine If game.
Role reverse.
Good one, Laura. What if that was President Donald J. Trump? And he decided Congress couldn't pass immigration reform. The FAIR Act, they couldn't get it through. So instead, I'm unilaterally ending chain migration. Oh my God! Could you imagine the ACLU's reaction to that? CNN? Oh, the Mr. Potato Head at 6 o'clock, or whenever he is, I don't even know, because nobody watches his show. Right?
I like it.
I mean, for crying out loud, once he's on CNN, and for crying out loud, once we got more views on Periscope than he did on his evening thing. I'm not even kidding.
I know.
Oh, I mean, it's not even a joke. Anyway.
I love you.
I was just going to say the same. Anyway, yeah, so there we are. Whoa, it's 11:53. When's that hour coming up? Anyway, so basically, yeah, that's the update. And so you guys can keep contributing, because that's going to roll over. And in fact, when I contacted them, they said you can have people, it can be the same form, but different drop downs. So you'll actually be able to check which month you want to fund. And if it reaches the limit, what do you want to do with it? And I just have to go in there and do it. It's really cool. It'll automatically roll over. I don't think I'm going to run into any overages. That goal is what we decided was the budget to cover it. And you guys know how this works. If I feel like I'm not reaching a certain group of people, I may shift modes. I may pull additional lists, But I really think I'm comfortable there. So I don't anticipate that happening. So basically, and people, by the way, have a lot of good questions on what the cost of surveys are. And generally speaking, guys, a live interview is like, generally, it's usually a little bit more. Depending on there are a couple of things that determine the cost of polling. One is survey duration. How long is the survey? And there's a reason for that. Online, for instance, the longer the survey, the more people you're going to have to go after to be able to get completes. There's some people that don't want to take long surveys. So we try to keep them short, as you know. And then if we have a larger one like we do this time, We employ different tactics to reduce survey fatigue, what we call survey fatigue. It's like, oh, God, when is the survey going to be over? Oh, you know what? This is just too long. It's not worth it. I'll click it out. We also let people take the survey at their leisure. Mm-hmm. They can hit a save button and come back later. That's what's good. I mean, online really does. The technology for online data collection has gotten so much better over the years, not just with capability, but, user-wise. User interface capabilities have gotten so much better. So they can circle back and take it later. If they're fatigued after 20 questions, they can hit save and, go do something else and then come back later and finish the survey. That's a big deal. And we call that survey fatigue is everywhere. In the phone, you can't do that. Live callers, that interviewer is on the phone. All right, in IVR, that it's literally a .IVR application. Most people aren't familiar with it because interactive voice response is not on Microsoft Word, but it is actually an IVR application. We call it like a sideways Christmas tree. They start wide, all right, and they go in. That's the way they look when you look at them, okay? And they eventually coalesce to the beginning because what you're looking at is different options, and then below it, different responses and prompts based on what they do. There is no way to say, hey, we'll call you back. You can take this survey later. Most of the time, you could do it. That's not true. It's not that you can't do it. Technologically, you kind of can, but people aren't going to re-pick up the phone. You're just not going to do it. They're not going to call back, even though you might be surprised. A little pro tip. If you leave on someone's answering machine or voicemail a number to call back to take, it doesn't matter if it's IVR or live interview. If you have call-in capability, you're going to get a few added responses, right?
Yeah, no, that surprised me.
We learned that years
though.
ago.
Yeah. I was like, really? They
call back? And some of them, we keep recordings. Some of them are hilarious. Americans are hilarious, right? There's never forget this one guy. That's why I use the I came home after working 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 8 to 6, and now I want to pop my dinner in. I want to eat. I want to sit down, watch my favorite show. I want to put my feet up, and I don't want to talk to you, right? I took that directly from
his thing.
That guy and there are probably dozens and dozens and dozens of other call logs of return calls of people who basically said the same thing, but this guy sticks in my mind because he was so damn funny. Mm-hmm. Like, he was mean, but he was mean and funny. He's like, listen, I'm gonna tell you one time, you pain in my because the system keeps calling you back, even if it's a live caller. If we got a voicemail or we got an answering machine, you go in attempted, and then depending on the survey construct, it could be 3 to 7 attempts. So we're going to keep calling you back. And this guy is like, I didn't pick up the first 5 times. I'm trying, and I won't say the show, but he's like, I'm trying to eat my damn dinner. And I'm trying to watch my show. And you are calling and calling. You're such a pain in my, and, it actually took the time to call back to leave that voice message after a while. So, I mean, Americans are funny. They're funny as hell.
But he also said, and the same people in my area are like,
right.
Me. Remember?
Right. And he said, none of my neighbors want to talk to you. Nobody at work I know wants to talk to you. And we were laughing, but it was really... But it was really indicative of a response bias problem, because this guy is like the quintessential working class Trump supporter. He was. Mm-hmm. And he even said over the damn thing, I'm not going to answer all your other damn questions. Not like it's any of your damn business. But when I finally go into the booth, I'm going to vote for Donald J. Trump. Now, kiss my and stop calling me. And it was so fun. We were hysterical. Uh-huh. Anyway, but he is, he represents what is a large group of voters. All right? Probably the single largest. I mean, obviously, people would say, well, Trump didn't win. How could it be single? Well, because it's a plurality. We're talking about the single largest, group. It doesn't have to, I'm not talking about a majority. The working class are overrepresented in the Electoral College. So are evangelicals. And they're underrepresented in a lot of, in national referendum. All right. So, all right. Anyway, here we go. With that in mind, it is now noon. We'll take a little break. And that's where we're at with. But really quick before we do, the rest of it, survey duration is all I hit. And that's why the number of questions really does matter, because that will obviously, for obvious reasons, dictate how long it takes to get through an interview, whether it's conducted online or over the phone. All right? And then mode of collection. Data collection modes reach different people at different rates. You know that. Different groups of people participate at different rates in different modes of collection. And you know that if you watch the show. Live caller, whether it's cell phone, landline, whatever, is extremely expensive. It's over, let's just say it's over $20 a response. So if you're talking about 1,000 responses, you're talking about 20 grand. All right, it's generally a little over $20 a response. I would say that online collection is generally around $5 a response, something like that. And then interactive voice response, it does vary. It could be as low as 4, as high as 8, something generally in that ballpark. If you want to do it right. I mean, I've seen some people charge like nothing for robocalling, and then I've seen the product and it's garbage. You did not reach that many 18 to 29-year-olds on a landline. It didn't happen. You're lying. Period. End of story. You reached a handful. You multiplied that by whatever you thought you needed, and that's what you did, Patrick, and you know it. Right? All right, so there we have it. So just to level it out. So I think that I did that in basic. And then there's, of course, the cost of the tools to do it. So, I don't say I have said the names before, but these things are thousands and thousands of dollars. So if you are like us, our capacity needs to be high. We need to be able to run a lot of surveys at once. Like, I can't turn a client down because I tell them I don't have enough channels or enough interviewers, right? Or enough data left on my online thing. Like, that's not okay. So you have to be you have to be ready to run on all 4 cylinders at all times. All right. And then what's left? Did I miss anything? I mean, there's labor. I mean, so it's hard to put it. Everybody is different. Each client has their own project to work on. So it's a little different. But ballpark, depending on the mode, what I told you, the cost of those responses is ballpark. And that includes it all. The cost of doing business, the cost of labor, the cost of actually reaching people. That's generally ballpark. And now some pollsters will email me and yell at me for saying that on air. All right. So with that, I'm going to go to the break. It's 12:03. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, and I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Do not forget to follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit, and like the page on Facebook if you're watching on Facebook, or even if you're not and you have a Facebook page. Mosey on over to People's Pundit Daily on Facebook and hit the like button. There are so many people who watch on Facebook that don't like the page. And we invite you. We re-invite you. Like the page. All right? We don't bombard people. Those who, we're not one of those people you'll get a million notifications. We're not going to spam you. You'll get the notification when the show goes on. I mean, that's basically.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah, we don't have time for it. And we know you don't have time to go through it all and delete it. Right. And of course, if you like the channel on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to it and hit that notification bell. That will let you know when we're going to go live. If you like the video, we'd very much appreciate a thumbs up.
Yes.
And if you don't, you can give it a thumbs down. By the way, to the wise guy who was like, the pollster doesn't want to know. I saw this comment on Monday. Yeah. The pollster and the hotshot lawyer don't want to know whether or not people like or dislike, the video. No, Robert and I were just really busy. We got to it at the last minute, and when we saw it, we changed the setting. But there's always the ability to like or dislike. If it's not there, it means YouTube defaults it to not. It doesn't matter what you tell YouTube the default is for your channel. Every unique video, they continue to default it back. And you have to go in there and change a bunch of things. YouTube plays games like that. I mean, they really do.
They like to play games. Like break our links.
They break our links. They remove our tags. They switch from the category from news and politics to entertainment. They're funny. You're funny. You're entertaining.
You're cute.
You're cute. Mm-hmm. All right. And with that, also, everybody who has subscribed or signed up on Locals That does, don't, if you haven't, definitely do so. Try to interact over there as much as possible, and as time goes on, I'm trying to migrate people over there. So once I feel like that's sufficiently done, in fact, we have a meeting with them later. Booyah! Hopefully they'll get that live stream up. I was authorized to say that they are in fact working on our live stream. This way, our live stream can be right on locals, and once that's done, there will be some significant shifts, and it's not that much. It's like $5, guys. It's like $5. I support other people's Substacks. It's like, if we want to, and by the way, the media is going after the mediums and the Substacks of the world because they can't believe that journalists can take their following. By the way, that's such a smear against Glenn Greenwald. I read last week. Yeah. He brought his audience to The Intercept. He didn't take the audience from The Intercept. I mean, The Intercept would basically be nothing without Glenn Greenwald. So now that he left, and by the way, he took me with him. Because I did too. I signed up for Glenn's Substack, or it's Medium actually. Glenn is Medium, I think. I don't even know. I just click on it. But I didn't read The Intercept because The Intercept had good. I read The Intercept because I followed Glenn Greenwald's work.
Yes. And
then he helped found The Intercept. So I started to read The Intercept. Like, I think these people that terrifies them. They're
delusional.
Yeah, and that they don't want anybody outside the corporate world to have any information flow whatsoever. They are terrified by the prospect that somebody could make a living without them. Somebody could pass information on to the public, good information, quality information, without them. By the way, all the CNNs and the HuffPos and all the rest of them that are smearing Glenn, he was right about Russia while you pushed what you were either too stupid to know was fake, or you knowingly pushed as fake. The Russia collusion conspiracy theory. So many of these journalists, I get this all the time, in truth, many of them did know that it was fake, including Fox News, who at least helped propagate it. But others really didn't understand the difference between an asset and and someone using you as an asset and someone being your source. In the intelligence world, these are young, relatively stupid, naive kids, right? It's true. They're born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They go to these colleges, and then they get these jobs at these news outlets, and they don't really understand the way the world works. You are not, or they are not, your source. You are their asset, Luke. At The Guardian. Okay, and countless others. Yeah, I mean, really, there it is. All right, so with that, let's take that break.
For a break.
All right. Laura's like, see, this is why we can't do commercials. You can't shut the hell up.
And that's why
questions
take forever.
We don't need commercials yet. We're not clear. Well, I have Dr. Fauci coming back after the break. We're going to do a follow-up on the segment we did last week on Dr. Fauci, Rand Paul, and reinfections, and we'll do that right after the break. Be back in 2 minutes on Inside the Numbers.
You're so funny.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
miraculous way to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear overnight, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And we're back to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. And I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. All right, thanks for following along, watching the show. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit and like the page People's Pundit Daily on Facebook. And don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Share the channel far and wide. Rack those subscriber counts up. Hit the notification bell. That will let you know when we're going to go live. And also, if you like the video, then hit the thumbs up, all right? And if you don't, you can hit the thumbs down. All right, that's the world we're supposed to live in. All right, so there we go. All right, with that in mind, let's recap the Fauci thing. And I did read, Laura was reading me some of your comments. We can circle back on China a little bit. That's why I was trying to find Mearsheimer. I got so many books, man. I'm like, I'm through everything. Still from the
we're
move.
still
I
unpacking.
can't find some of the stuff. Yeah, but I wanted to read a passage from him because it really goes to what people were talking about when that exchange, when you had this fool, try to talk about norms and, rules, the rules-based order. That stuff is fiction, relegated to the cameras and relegated to the hall of shame in academia. It isn't real. The world is an international state of anarchy, and it is governed by self-interests. Period. And what we're doing with these, it's not just China, which is why I wanted to get into that. I'll just briefly say, we are pushing, and Joe Biden with his stupid comment about how, oh no, I really meant it. Go ahead, Joe. Push the other superpower with nuclear weapons into the arms of the predominant regional Asian hegemon. Push them into the arms of Xi Jinping. Let them form a balancing coalition against us. One that we cannot balance against. Who's going to do it with us? Great Britain? They can't take their masks off long enough to pick up a gun. Who's going to do it? The French?
Oh, yeah, okay, because the last time they came through was the revolution.
Greece? The Italians? Right. They haven't came through since the Revolutionary War. Who's going to do it? Germany? They don't even have a military, Joe. Are you too stupid to know that? Do you know how the post-World War II order was set up? Abe in Japan, shaking in his boots right now. We take care of their defense, Joe. And that's why you're seeing, by the way, it is no coincidence that you're seeing North Korea now act aggressive. It is no cool. What's Joe gonna do? Let's rewind time to Barack Obama. They were shelling because they knew it didn't matter. All right. With that in mind, let's go back to the Fauci clip real quick. Last week, Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci made news with their little exchange during the hearing. Basically, Rand Paul, as you know, a physician himself, confronted Dr. Fauci with actual data and talked about whether or not mask wearing is just virtue signaling if someone has already been vaccinated.
We're not even getting into the fact that there isn't a single chart from a single state or a single nation that backs up mask-wearing mandates being effective at stopping or slowing the spread of coronavirus, because they don't. We were simply talking about those who are vaccinated. Let's play the clip again just to remind everybody, and when we come back, there's been some more data on this, and we're gonna bring it up when we come back. I will tell you what we found beforehand, then I will tell you what the most recent study has found, and where, most interestingly, where the study was sourced.
No evidence that there are significant reinfections after vaccine. In fact, I don't think we have a hospitalization in the United States after the 2-week period after the second vaccination. We don't have a death in the United States.
You're not hearing what I'm saying about variants. We're talking about wild type versus variants.
And what proof is there that there are significant reinfections with hospitalizations and death from the variants? None in our country. Zero.
Well, because we don't have a prevalent of a variant yet. We're having one. Can I finish? We're having 117 that's becoming more dominant.
Your policy based on conjecture.
No,
it
isn't based on conjecture.
Variants, so you want people to wear a mask for another couple years.
No.
You've been vaccinated and you parade around in 2 masks for show.
No.
You can't get it again. There's virtually 0% chance you're going to get it, and yet you're telling people that have had the vaccine, who have immunity. You're defying everything we know about immunity by telling people to wear a mask who've been vaccinated.
No.
Instead, you should be saying there is no science to say we're going to have a problem from the large number of people being vaccinated. You want to get rid of vaccine hesitancy? Tell them they can quit wearing their mask after they get the vaccine. Okay. You want people to get the vaccine? Give them a reward instead of telling them that the nanny state's going to be there for 3 more years and you got to wear a mask forever. People don't want to hear it. There's no science behind it.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater.
The Democrats
masks
trying to
are
jump
protective,
in and help him.
And we
have immunity there, theater. If you already have immunity, you're wearing a mask to give comfort to others. You're not wearing a mask because of any science.
I totally disagree with you.
Dr. Fauci, if you could respond so that we could understand the difference between the virus itself and the variants and the reason for a mask.
I'm sorry, ma'am, I can't hear.
If you could,
I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't understand you because I don't have any data. So I'm just gonna say I can't understand you, even though what you said was blatant and very clear. I'm sorry. I can't understand. I'm sorry, man. What a little turd this guy is. I had to come back with the Mickey Mouse ears because my ear set died. It drains sometimes. All right. The variants in question. Hold that thought for a second while I recap what we found. Pre-vaccine. Let's go back to January. Going into the second week of January, we went back. Now, for these numbers to be legitimate, we have to concede that there were no problems with testing regimes. But there were, of course. We know there were. And we know there were false positives. But we have to, especially in the early testing phase, in the beginning of this pandemic. But let's just play along. And let's assume that there were no problems with the testing regimes. There were about 31 cases that they said were confirmed of reinfection. Now, of course, that's not really true. You know that. The likelihood that those were phony positives is actually pretty damn high. It cannot be ruled out. But let's just assume. That means you have a 0.000003% chance of being reinfected. Pre-vaccine. Pre-vaccine. Now, what does that say? Well, that seems to indicate that reinfection risk is very, very low. Even with the variants. It's so low, it's an irrational fear. To continue to wear the mask is based on, you are doing so based on an irrational fear. Not based on science. Now, multiple times throughout this past year to date, let's say, because we're talking about when this pandemic first started, we are now over a year of Dr. Anthony Fauci and his blatant lying and his blatant flip-flopping. There's no evidence COVID can be transmitted. There's no evidence of human-to-human transmission from COVID. there is no evidence that mask wearing reduces the spread of coronavirus. In fact, let's go back further. AIDS can only be transmitted through homosexual activity. This new wonder drug by Purdue Pharma called Oxycontin is not addictive. There is a difference between dependence and drug-seeking behavior. Just because somebody is displaying drug-seeking behavior does not necessarily mean that they are a drug addict. These are all things a wonderful public health community, to include Dr. Fauci in his own words, have told us that were untrue. Newsflash, doctors are buyable. They have a price. They will tell you one thing one day and then something the next day. Who's paying for the trip to Maui?
That's what I was just about to say.
Write out enough scripts for Percocet. I'm going to Aruba, baby. I'm taking my nurse with me.
I love you.
To pretend as if these people are some kind of virtuous authority is delusional. You want to make yourself feel better, go right ahead. There have also been now multiple instances when we know it's public, some of it is public, and some of it is not public, but we know it to be true, to include the adverse impact monitoring data from Moderna. There are multiple instances, to include that, where we know Dr. Fauci lied and knowingly lied. Also on vaccination progress by others that aren't his immediate buddies, such as Pfizer. When Donald Trump made statements that were demonstrably true to anybody who had access to internal documents and the adverse impact monitoring data from these companies, and Dr. Fauci would run to CNN or run to the first reporter who would put a microphone in his tiny in front of his tiny little body with a big little mouth, and he lied. And now we have another one. And before I reveal it, go ahead, Laura.
I just want to say that why do people idolize doctors as gods? It is called a practice for a reason. It is a practice, meaning they don't have
all the answers.
Cemented.
That's exactly right.
They've practiced several times. A lot of people died in the process.
Laura,
and then
science
they finally narrowed it down to something that you could live with.
People have a phony concept of what science means. And what, it's the same thing with all of these misnomers and statistics, right? People don't understand that science, something that is scientifically true today, cannot be tomorrow. Science is supposed to constantly challenge what you believe to be true because theories are stronger in certain times because of the evidence that you have gathered up until that point. Which brings us to this study. When Dr. Fauci was making those statements to Rand Paul, it is beyond likely that he knew he was lying. Why am I saying that? March 19th, 2021. Neutralizing antibodies against SARS-CoV-2 variants after infection and vaccination. Wait until you hear this.
I know.
Serum which, by the way, he praised the serum with antibodies, the antibody serum. He praised the hell out of it. Remember that, guys? That was still under Donald Trump. Serum neutralizing antibodies rapidly appear after SARS-CoV-2 infection and vaccination are maintained for, are you ready? Several months. The emergence of SARS-CoV-2 variants has raised concerns about the breadth of neutralizing antibody responses. We compared the neutralizing antibody responses to 4 variants in infected and vaccinated individuals to determine how mutations with the spike protein are associated with virus neutralization. Methods. Serum samples were obtained from 3 groups of individuals. At Emory University, hospitalized adults with SARS-CoV-2 infection, I'm not going to try to polymerase chain reaction confirmed. all right,
Sounds good.
were enrolled 5 to 19 days after symptom onset in July 2020. Infected, this is the summer of the pandemic, folks. Infected convalescent individuals, polymerase chain reaction or antigen test confirmed, were enrolled 32 to 94 days after symptom onset, March to August of 2020. De-identified serum samples drawn 14 days after the second dose, all right, from individuals in the mRNA 1273 phase 1 clinical trial were obtained from, guess where? The National Institute of Health. Are you telling me Dr. Fauci was unaware of this study? Institutional Review Board approval was obtained from Emory University and Advara. All participants provided written informed consent. 4 variants were examined, chosen to represent the original SARS-CoV-2 strain and the emerging variants with mutations in the spike protein. The first variant, nCoV USA W Washington 1 WA1 2020, closely resembled the original Wuhan strain. Oh my God, they just said this Wuhan. Racist doctors.
How dare they?
Closely resembled the
Tell you
original
the
Wuhan
origin.
strain
I'm
and
sorry.
spike used in the mRNA 1273 vaccine and was propagated from an infectious SARS-CoV-2 clone. The second variant, EHC-083E, containing a D614G mutagen with the spike, was predominant circulating strain at the time of the study and was isolated from a residual nasopharyngeal swab from a patient in Atlanta, Georgia in March of 2020. SARS-CoV-2 human USA GA, stands for Georgia, EHC 083E 2020. The third variant, SARS-CoV-2 human USA CA underscores California, CA underscore CDC, that is the source, underscore 5574/2020, obviously, for the year represented, was originally identified in the UK and of concern because of increased transmissibility. Remember? Well, if Trump's going to close the border to China, why doesn't he close down travel to the UK since their strain is more viral, more transmissible, right? And he did, by the way.
Yes.
It contained several spike mutagens and was isolated from a residual nasopharyngeal swab from the patient in San Diego, California in December of 2020, when you and I said we were sick and we thought we were sick with this new virus. I was
Remember?
traveling.
We were really sick.
I lost my sense of smell. I lost my sense of taste. And the fourth variant, N501Y, SARS-CoV-2 virus. By the way, that nasal swab proves conclusively that this thing was circulating in our society before everybody hit the months before everybody hit the panic button and said we needed to by government force, close down commerce and put tens of millions of people in poverty, or put them at the risk of going in poverty at least.
That little gremlin, I tell you.
That proves without a doubt. And by the way, at this time, Fauci is still telling the world Chinese WHO talking points. That this is not transmissible. There's no evidence this thing is transmissible. They're transmitted through human to human interaction. And by the way, Fauci circa 2020, and he, this was basically still up on the fence about whether, last Christmas, right? The fourth variant, N501Y, SARS-CoV-2 virus, containing a mutation in the critical receptor binding domain of the spike that is present across multiple emerging variants, including the B-1.1.7 variant in this study, was generated from an infectious clone as previously described. This virus is not found in nature. Live virus-focused reduction neutralization tests, or FRNTSs, were performed as previously described. See the appendix in the supplement for details on the laboratory methods. FRNT50 titers, which represent the reciprocal dilution of serum that neutralizes 50% of the input virus, were interpolated with a 4-parameter non-linear regression, and the geometric mean GMTs, right, were calculated with 95% CI, which is confidence interval. You guys know that. In GraphPad Prism version 8.4.3, and he's just giving his methodology about what to do. What were the results? 20 acutely infected COVID-19 patients provided serum samples. The mean age was 56.6 years, and 50% of them were men. The FRNT GMT for the A1 variant was 186. All right, so bottom line, the comparison of the FRNT _50 GMT of the variants was not statistically significant. The bottom line, to make it all, and by the way, for 14, the age range was 18 to 55, 43% of men. So before some of you people go on the tangent, I know you're going to go on with women being different from men, all right, which is, again, I don't know where you guys come up with this stuff, but you try and, let's cover all bases. The bottom line is, that the variants were statistically lower than that for the A1 variant. But the bottom line is the study finds neutralizing activity of infection and vaccine elicited antibodies, whether you got it and recovered or you were vaccinated, is what they're saying there, against 4 SARS-CoV-2 variants, including B1, B117, and N501Y. Because the neutralization studies measure the antibodies to block virus infection, these results suggest that infection and vaccine-induced immunity may be retained against the B1 variant. All right, as additional variants emerge, neutralizing antibody responses after infection and vaccination should be monitored. But as of now, there is no evidence that the fear Dr. Fauci is imposing on society is valid. The CDC, the National Institute of Health itself, raced to defend this man when a group, one of 3 of these groups, stem from them. Are you telling me they were unaware of this? Folks, you could be afraid of the what ifs, an infinite universe of what ifs forever. That is, by definition, an irrational fear, though, when there is no evidence to support that, the fear of the infinite possibility.
But they're perpetuating this fear. So, for instance, my friend's wife died of cancer.
I tweeted about this yesterday,
Yes.
but I didn't say any specifics. We will say this. A hospital in New Jersey.
All right. Died of cancer.
She's on her deathbed.
All right. So they put on her death certificate that she died of COVID.
Folks, she caught COVID probably from someone of the staff, but
hold
was
on.
already dying. Well, let's just make this clear.
Yes.
She was on her deathbed. She had been terminally ill with cancer
Yes.
for how long? She fought it for years.
Years.
And then it just took a turn for the worse. She goes into the hospital. Everybody understands. It's time. It's over. The fight is over.
She knew it was over. They knew it was over. Everybody said their goodbyes. And so then they decided to put COVID on the death certificate. So my friend turned around and said, I will sue your hospital if you do not remove COVID from her death certificate, just so you can get extra money.
That's all it was, folks. And it was, can we
And
at
they
least
tore
say
it?
it was Central State? Was it? It was Central State. I don't know if it was, but
let's just say that document was torn to pieces because he had to threaten to sue them in order to get that removed.
understand this woman,
It's
again,
a money game.
had been fighting the battle for years. It was not good over the last couple of months. This last turn for the worse. Everybody said she put up a good fight, but now it is time. Now it is time to no, don't just leave it. I just wanted to show it to you. Now it is time to prepare, say your goodbyes. She caught COVID not outside and then brought it in. She caught COVID on her deathbed from one of the staff members, and they put COVID down as her cause of death.
Not cancer.
They wanted money. So we can't even, there is without a shadow of a doubt, the numbers from COVID are grossly inflated. They've been inflated to Dr. Anthony Fauci with Mr. God syndrome. They've been inflated to his low end of the spectrum anyway, if Donald Trump didn't shut down the economy. If you remember, Mr. President, if you do not shut down the economy, we'll be looking at least 500,000 deaths, upwards of 2.4 million. In truth, we're there anyway. Mm-hmm. And nothing Dr. Fauci suggested to do stop that. And in fact, he and others, including our lawmakers, incentivized these so-called virtuous public health officials, the heroes of our society, along with teachers, heroes. I haven't met very many heroes.
No.
Okay? I don't know how we all of a sudden everybody's a freaking hero. Because you go to work and clean a bedpan doesn't make you a hero. It makes you what you do. Hero is something that should be, a label that should be really reserved.
For people who
who go completely above and beyond. Mm-hmm. Putting the incorrect code on a death certificate so your hospital can get thousands of dollars more is not the behavior of a hero. It is not the behavior of a virtuous person. The doctor who, by the way, in Minnesota, who was a whistleblower, who came out and said what they were doing, for one of the first people to say that they are classifying people as COVID deaths for money incorrectly, that guy's a hero. That's a real hero. People trying to stuff their pockets. Mm-hmm. People trying to, inflate their own self-importance to make them feel better. That's not a hero. At the expense of society, nonetheless. Pneumonia, the flu.
They're gone. They don't exist anymore.
People,
have you heard about them lately?
People have been misclassified,
yeah.
right?
That's good.
I mean, pneumonia just completely collapsed during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Pneumonia deaths completely collapsed. And how do you know? How can you actually verify that? Because the age groups that don't have a risk to COVID, unless they have some serious medical condition.
You're pushing it. Yeah.
You still see the pneumonia deaths there because pneumonia has always been more deadly to that age group. 0 to 15. Pneumonia is far more deadly than COVID-19. Or any coronavirus for that matter, so far as we know. That is the truth.
Somebody said flu has been healed.
Yeah, it's like flu vanished this year, guys. Or last year. Vanished. And, 1 month before the election, because this study was put out, they're still taking samples a month after the election. And this is the crap Dr. Fauci is pushing when he knows 4 variants tested showed that whether you caught it and you developed antibodies because you caught it, or because you were vaccinated. That's an irrational fear, guys. And to say, well, you should still wear a mask because we don't have enough data. You're never going to have 100% information based on, really with anything. When was the last time we always had 100%? Like, that's like saying, we don't know for sure whether next year's strain of the flu is going to be deadly. Like really deadly to all age groups. So I think we should put on masks just because we're not really sure what next year's flu is going to be like, or this year coming up. You could do this forever, guys. You can live in fear forever. In fact, that's what a hypochondriac does.
Yes. That's what we're making.
Neurotics.
Uh-huh.
This is mass pushing of or this is like, mass inventing neurotics. And by the way, it isn't what America's about. America is about living free and not in fear. It's about understanding that freedom comes with risks, certain risks, behaving when it's appropriate, taking measures when it's appropriate, but not living in a constant, perpetual state of fear. That is old world thinking.
Yes.
That is what the old world wants to do. So not only should we not emulate them, we should probably immediately, when we see them make a decision, question whether or not we should be going in the other direction. Because that served us well for 200 plus years. While they were weak, we were strong. While they were begging, we were commanding. While we were thriving, they were barely surviving and begging us to come to their aid.
As usual.
Why on earth would we emulate that? There is no, according to this study, which I'll tweet out, there is no evidence with any of the variants Dr. Fauci's trying to scare you over. There is no evidence that there exists a variant that can reinfect you after you have already, 1, had coronavirus, or 2, been vaccinated.
The goal is fear.
Thus, thus, not only should they not wear masks, but you're actually hurting the population. Herd immunity, you're slowing down herd immunity by hiding the healthy and protected people. You're slowing it down. You're actually, I mean, if this turns out to be the case, you're actually hurting people more. And by the way, when you mess with nature like this, it tends to have a way to mess back.
Bite you.
Yep.
Don't play God.
So God, help us. If it's like, you know, well, I don't want to even say, I'm not even going to speak that crap. Yeah, I'm not even doing it. Laura and I definitely believe in the power of the spoken word. I'm not even saying that crap. I'm not even doing it. All right. So with that, I know that Laura said there were a couple of people who had questions, even on China and other things. I wanted to say something again. The last thing I want to talk about here today, and then maybe this has to do with some of the questions. I'm not sure. I know a lot of it's going to be political. But this idiot, let me see if I can pull up the article actually, and then people will know what I'm talking about. It's a never-ending cycle of Republican retardedness. And I don't mean that in the... Oh, you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I got it.
All right. What I'm saying is, like, these are mentally challenged, slow simpletons in the world of political strategy. These are the dumbest people to ever, you know, have control of a political party. I don't know what to say. They don't learn. Like, eventually you have to learn, you know? From the Daily Caller, Nicole Silverio. Nicole, if I didn't say your name right, I'm sorry. Representative Tom Ever of Minnesota revealed the GOP's effort to link the Democratic Party to socialism and add women and minorities to the party in order to win back a House majority in 2022. The Hill reported. That sounds like Brad Parscale's strategy to reelect the president. That sounds like Kevin McCarthy's strategy to take the House back in 2020. That sounds like Mitch McConnell's strategy to keep the Senate in 2020. That sounds like Mitch McConnell's strategy to keep David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler in the Senate on January 5th, 2021. That sounds like Kelly Loeffler's entire television ad campaign. Americans are no longer afraid, whether or not you think it's right or stupid. They should be, because I got a lot of that on Twitter. That's not the point, folks. They're not afraid of the word socialism the way they used to be. It is no longer the 1980s. In truth, the vast majority will tell you, I oppose socialism. But then when you start giving them little increments about what socialism means, or what socialism would mean, well, do you think everybody should have healthcare? Is healthcare right? You're forcing somebody to give up their labor for free, but do you think it's a right? Do you think the government should provide this? Do you think the government should do that? The truth is, the socialism argument is A, not as scary as it used to be to Americans, and then B, very much the boy cried wolf. Republicans have been crying socialism for years. The real, and number three, I would add, it's not really, socialism isn't the best way to define it. It is without a doubt true that the Nazis were not right-wing, they were left-wing. They, in fact, were socialist and believed in a brand, a form of socialism. Fascism is a brand of socialism as an economic definition. It just, unlike communism, does still believe in a private sector figurehead. It's just that those private sectors do what they are told. All right? Fascism scares Americans. Mm-hmm. And that is the word that should be used not only because it scares Americans, but because it's true.
Yes.
The left, the modern left in America, is far more aligned with true fascism than they are with traditional socialists. But this is the strategy again, yeah. Laura? Are you kidding me? And how many millions are you going to grift out of the pockets of hardworking Americans to push this failed message again? History would say Democrats are going to have a pretty bad election in 2022. This is exactly the kind of feeble stupidity and incompetence that can help Democrats buck history. Emmer, the GOP campaign chief, said the Republican Party is strategizing to defeat Democrats in the upcoming midterm elections by labeling their agenda as socialist and targeting their latest legislative agendas that do not receive bipartisan support. House Republicans are planning to add more women and minorities to the party. This is what he said, quote, Nancy Pelosi and her socialist agenda are the most unpopular thing going on in this country, and it's going to cost them their majority on their side. The first part about that, before the hyphen, which is, and it's going to cost them their majority, before that, false. The most unpopular person in Congress right now is not Nancy Pelosi. It's Mitch McConnell. Mm-hmm. False. So how much faith can you have in a strategy partially developed and touted by a man who doesn't even speak the truth? With 10 minutes remaining, let's take some questions. Okay. I'm just going to leave it there. I mean, that's it. Think about it.
That's all you need.
That's all I need to say.
That's all you got to say.
Question time.
Question. All right. So, I saved the questions that Rich doesn't ask also. So, if you had a question before, I most likely have it. So, Mr. Fluffy, I love the name. What are the odds they pass an assault rifle ban?
Right now, Joe Manchin just killed gun control. As it stands right now, I would be asking what are the, as it stands right now, unless we see, there is no reason, because Joe Manchin provided the Susan Collins and the Lisa Murkowskis, and right, he provided them cover. So there's no reason for her to open her stupid big mouth. Either one of their stupid big mouths. It's dead as it stands right now. It's dead. And McConnell can do the politically smart thing and just brush it aside now. It's over. It's dead. Man, you don't have the votes on your side. You can't afford to lose a single Democrat. Well, what about you? Can we get any crossover support? We don't even talk about it. You don't have all your Democrats. That's all Mitch McConnell has to do. And even he is not too stupid to know that that is the play he's got to make here. The real question is, what are the odds Joe Biden, his, like Robert calls him, his, illegitimate, the second, His Highness, thinks his 150th executive order could be a ban, which will get court challenge. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. That's the real question. And I gotta say, guys, we are in such a totalitarian or authoritarian environment.
It's more authoritarian.
Yeah, it's a more appropriate way to say it. We're in such an authoritarian environment, I gotta say, I think the odds are probably pretty high. He way oversteps. If they can't get a database through, it's going to be hard to get an assault, weapons ban through, or what they'll label an assault weapons ban. And then they'll go ahead and classify incorrectly all of these weapons we just talked about in the first segment of the show as assault weapons. An AR-15 is not an assault weapon. Just got to keep saying it. The AR-15 is not an assault weapon. The AR-15 is not an assault weapon. The AR-15 is not an assault weapon.
Please tell them what AR stands
AR
for.
does not stand for assault rifle.
What's it stand
Ask
for?
Armor-Light. Just like the one we have, which would be classified by the media, well, one of them, is classified as an M10 because it's made by Colt.
Talking about my Pegasus.
She calls her Pegasus.
And that's my baby.
I think it's gorgeous.
She is. All right.
And guess what? Even if you put a database together, I'm not registering her. Let me just say this right now. I will not comply with any gun restrictions that is passed by the United States Congress. I simply will not comply with it. You make up your own mind. You have to behave based on your own conscience. I am not a law-breaking citizen, but I absolutely will break what I believe to be unconstitutional, illegitimate laws.
Which means
I'm
you're not
not
breaking the law,
registering
though, because
anything.
It's constitutionally correct.
Now, one of the things you would be forced to comply with are those certain databases, because that's not on you. When you go and they run you through NCIS, you're going to end up in that database. But what I'm saying is they're going to want to retroactively have you voluntarily put yourself in a retroactive manner into that database.
No, thank you.
You can kiss my half Italian, half Greek, rosy red bottom because I'm not doing it. Okay. How many guns you got? None of your damn business.
Find them. Try.
Come see. Right?
I suggest you do not break into my house. That's
yeah.
all
I mean,
gotta
look.
say.
I mean, I'm just not doing it. I have a right. Anyway, moving on.
Leah Martin would like to know, there are dirty voter rolls in California. Anything we citizens can do to force local elections officials to clean them?
Yeah, I mean, there's always something you guys can do. I don't know where you live specifically, but, I mean, not a lot, but there are still some localities that are red in Florida. Try to take control of those localities, pressure them to make their own actions. Listen, they opened the door. If these localities could unilaterally change the election laws before 2020, then your localities can unilaterally change the law too. You have to start playing by the same game they do. Well, maybe the state doesn't require it, but here we're going to require a rigorous signature match. Are they going to send somebody from Sacramento to come make sure that you're not? I mean, maybe, whatever. Fight it out. And never give up on electing somebody that you think represents your values, no matter what that place looks like. I don't care if it voted 60+% Democrat. So did Alabama. Voted for Alabama voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. Did that stop them from pushing Doug Jones against Roy Moore? You got to start to play. And by the way, even large percentages of Democrats support these agendas, support these proposals. They support these items. They support signature match. They support photo ID. They even support not counting ballots in the middle of the night.
What a novel concept.
They support integrity deadlines. Only your uber liberal white, affluence, not even the word, elite and wannabe elite, think they're a champion of the black and brown, and right, American voter. And by the way, just reading before with Wisconsin, they're going to be doing like a much more thorough investigation in Wisconsin about what happened in election 2020. I will tell you right now, looking at Wisconsin, it is very, 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 very likely, if they do a serious effort, they are going to find a lot of votes. 89%, 90% turnout is not only unlikely, it's nearly impossible in just about every state in this here union. Because 90% of the voter roll is not clean. That's just not a real number. All right, it's just not. Because being eligible to vote in the United States, being registered, to vote in the United States of America is not the same thing as being eligible to vote.
I don't know how many times we have to say that one. M. Hollow wants to know, are you going to poll how people felt about China talking down to us?
That would probably have to make it in the next one, even though it's more prescient this time. Or we could dump something, because that may be
a good question.
Or at least, do you believe? Did you see the exchange? Do you believe China respects us? I could think about something like that, because I do think that we have some. Who do you basically? Do you believe that Joe Biden is tough on China kind of look, or do you kind of line of questioning? But that happened, that we put that in place before that happened. So it's I'll revisit it. As soon as I'm done with the show today, I'll revisit that, and I'll see if there's something that kind of works and makes sense. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, usually you're more long-winded. Okay, I'm probably gonna butcher your name. Soros. Hey, Rich, if Biden starts another war in Middle East, like in Iran, how bad is it going to be?
Yeah, bad. Because the military effectiveness is it's going to decline under Joe Biden, like we saw it under Barack Obama. That's number one. Number two, I think or at least we should have, learned our lesson that it's very difficult to actually win a war in the Middle East, because the idea of what victory means is clouded. You have to know what victory even means, what it looks like. And our foreign policy establishment in modern America has been unable to do that basically since the Vietnam War, with the exception, because we're not talking about a total war. We haven't seen a total war yet. But I would say that it's going to be great for China, because they intend to bait and bleed us, which is a strategy I hope to read from you today. And actually, I have this on PPD. You guys could check it out. Type in "foreign policy for dummies." All right. Or,
I love it.
And you'll see 101, 102, or 101, 201, whatever, however we phrased it. And it basically shows you how, like, the Lindsey Grahams and the John McCains don't make any sense. They tried to push themselves off as foreign policy and national security experts, when in truth they exhibited such a gross ignorance of sound foreign policy and sound security studies. Basically, one of the strategies, states use different strategies to tip the balance of relative power, and it is. You can never achieve an absolute power. Power is measured by on a relative scale in the international state of anarchy. You're not absolutely powerful. You're more powerful than this nation state, right? Anyway, China seeks to bait and bleed us. It is a strategy that is, if it's risky, but it's hard to employ, but it's the return on investment is extremely high. It's highly successful when it is successful. And what you're trying to do is take your adversary or your enemy, and you're trying to engage them in another conflict somewhere. You're baiting them into another costly conflict that in the end will bleed them. It will weaken them without you having to do a damn thing. All right? And that's what China has been doing to us for a long time. All of the anti-American balancing coalition around the world has been doing that. And the dummies like Max Boot and Bill Kristol and all the rest of them, they have been Paul Wolfowitz's, even back then, going back to the Iraq War. They have been instrumental in helping our adversaries weaken us without doing anything. Because, as Schneider said, there is no mythical city of El Dorado. It doesn't exist. The city of gold. You're just going to keep wasting conquistadors and, until you don't have any more to send. Because it doesn't exist. And their mind, their goal, their worldview isn't real. And it doesn't exist. Their goal doesn't exist. And all it will do is weaken us further. Because our treasury is not infinite. And we're already in horrible, horrible debt. That's why you see Iran not playing ball. All right? It will get really bad because these people are clueless. Blight and the rest of them, they are absolutely clueless. They don't understand. You can't, send an excursion over the border from Iraq into Syria, and you can't send an incursion like that and then expect them to applaud you when you say, I think I'm going to, take sanctions off, or let's re-enter the Iran deal, or you already attacked their ally. They're not going to play nice with you after that. I mean, they really have this distorted view of the world. You're in their hemisphere. You're in their hegemonic region. They don't want you there. And no amount of pallets, no amount of cash you can stack on pallets, Joe, in the dead of the night, like your former boss did. No amount of placating them with reduced sanctions or eliminating sanctions or, going back into the Iran deal, allowing them to have nuclear weapons. They'll just laugh at you behind your back and joke about how dumb you are for helping them increase their relative power against you. And they'll wait. They'll bait and bleed and bait and bleed and bait and bleed until you got nothing left. And they'll be lucky if they dig your grave. Like Robert said on Monday, it's 100% true, Laura. That slip and fall was very symbolic. That day, that 24 hours of embarrassment across the globe, from China to Tehran, and that fall was symbolic of the fall of the American empire as we know it. And I mean, really, it's sad to watch. But he's just that stupid. Or he's just that weak. Yes. And the people around him who are bullying him around the White House, they are that stupid. It will be bad. All right, let's get one more at 101.
Oh, okay.
I know you thought I was going to wrap it up right there.
You looked like it.
And guys, it does look like I fixed the sink issues, which is good. Or at least better.
Well, it was much better. And then somebody complained that I was like, listen, I'm on a learning curve, so it's not my end all or be all, but I'm doing the best I can. Anywho.
That we need to what?
Because you went off in sync towards the end.
Well, there's going to be some glitches at some
It's
point.
okay. I'm not going to cry a river that leads to their ocean. What is one of the most important things people overlook in public opinion and polling? Antar would like to know.
Wow. I mean, that's a broad question. I would say the survey wording and ordering. So how surveys are worded absolutely can elicit different responses. And what I think does not get enough attention is how surveys are worded and how they are ordered, right? So throughout the Trump administration, I constantly saw people like YouGov, PAC before approval rating, all these bias, tainting questions. And then they would ask how do you approve or disapprove of Donald Trump? Like that, you cannot do that. And then the wording of a question matters. All right. So, and I use immigration as an example. It's a big difference between do you favor stripping the babies out of the arms of mothers and deporting everybody back to Guatemala, blah, 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 blah. That's the way they word this kind of crap. Or do you support a pathway to citizenship for those who have lived here and pay taxes? If they did, or they'll even give a number, which is an inaccurate number. The Dreamers represent about 450,000, or Joe Biden's proposal is about 6 million or 4 million, or whatever number they make up that day, when everybody knows because of the chain, it's really like 30 plus million, Survey wording and survey questioning have a huge, huge impact right along with how people have collected, the data that they collected, who they reached. That's a really, really great question, but all of which does not get near enough conversation. I mean, polling at this point should be reported, delivered to the public with caveats. And they're not.
Nope.
Who the hell cares what ABC News poll says, which I saw just recently? Langer Research put out Biden plus 17 in the state of Wisconsin, folks. Who gives a damn what they say? Who gives a damn what anything? Reuters is another one, by the way. Brexit. Both UK parliamentary and domestic elections. I mean, EU and domestic elections, right? The Israeli elections. The US elections in 16 and 20. The 2018 midterms. All of which you can find Democratic skews in excess of 10 points from that firm. And they literally put out a poll after Joe Biden fell up the escalator. Fell up to Air Force One. Fell upstairs. Fell up upstairs.
Not once.
Not downstairs. Not down. Up. And not once, but 3 times. They put out a poll saying Joe Biden may have fallen down, but his approval rating has steadily climbed. Well, if we take your Democratic bias, then Joe Biden is at 47%. If we take the average by which you overstate Democratic support, then in your poll, Joe Biden is at 47%.
You want to end it on a funny?
Let's end it on a funny. I always like to end it on funny.
A cute little funny.
Hit it.
Jay Patel has suggested a poll question. Who wins in a game of memory, Biden or a goldfish?
Oh my God.
I said
Goldie.
I said hands down, goldfish will win it every time.
We can joke, but
It's true.
it's guy is in bad shape. It's no good.
And I just want to put a disclaimer out there. Jack Dorsey, you're a little punk. I am now permanently banned from
I told
Twitter.
people on Monday.
Yeah.
And for those who
I
weren't
just
watching
wanted
on
to put it
Monday,
out there.
Laura is permanently banned, and they claimed it was for using multiple Twitter accounts to
And
abuse
abuse.
people. And I'll tell you right now, that's demonstrably false. They could easily check to see whether or not she logged into multiple Twitter accounts, even our business accounts. And she was not the one who logged into those accounts. The truth is, Laura, they banned you because you were my media contact. And when I got hot after the election, right? Everybody was told to go to you. Mm-hmm. Once that went around and everybody was calling, that's when they banned you. Mm-hmm. And they were trying, because everybody knew to DM Laura. If you wanted an interview, DM Laura. That's why they banned you.
So
Because they knew you were the one effective at getting me around. And they didn't, and it was easier to ban you because your name wouldn't be trending for hours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm not as
they're
cool
bullies.
as you.
They're
I know.
bullies. No,
It's
it's
I'm
important to say
joking. No,
simply
I'm
because
joking.
they're bullies.
Yes. And what kind of man bullies a woman?
I know,
could pull
Jack.
that. Come on, Jack. Shameful, Jack.
Can't bully.
It's okay, because I'm going to talk to Barnes about you, Jack.
Yeah, Laura wants to sue Twitter.
Yes, I do.
You should call Robert and talk to him about it. And then also Devin Nunes' attorney is also very effective if Robert doesn't want to do it. I would personally go with Robert because Robert's my,
We know Robert, too.
Robert's my lawyer, man. All right? I take Robert for anything. All right?
But anyway, it's not because I'm lamenting over Twitter. It's just the fact that my First Amendment right was impeded upon.
Principle, and it's not true.
Principle,
and it's not true.
And number 2, it's okay. I still have Gitmo.life, so if you guys want to follow me there at Laura
PBD
Paris.
has been permanently banned as well, by the way.
Yeah.
PBD has been permanently banned, even and the excuse was amplifying content, multiple accounts to amplify content. So, if Maggie Haberman at the New York Times writes an article and then retweets her own article, that's amplifying content? It's ridiculous. They arbitrarily do it. PPD was never abusive to anybody. It was nothing but straight up data for all of the tens of thousands who followed it. You know that.
Well, how dare
it was nothing. There was never any commentary on it. Even when there was an opinion, it was prefaced with opinion.
And then semicolon.
Semicolon, the title.
The
Yeah.
Right.
Unbelievable. They're just frauds. The truth is, like I tell you guys all the time, in the game of life, if it was a game of 9-ball, these little fairies, they need the 6 to be spotted to them because life is too hard for them on a fair playing field. It's just too hard.
But he's a tough guy behind a computer screen and a keyboard, so whatever.
Little turd. Anyway,
Joke.
there we have it. With that, thanks
Sorry.
for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. We'll be back, of course, on Friday at 11 a.m. No trips to Florida Friday, right?
No.
That happened last time, and I forgot to tell the audience before about it. No trips. Okay. So we will be back at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Free Will and Friday, okay? Don't forget to follow me while I'm still on Twitter, at peoples_pundit. You can definitely follow me on Gitmo Life, at Laura Barris is where you can find her, and at People's Pundit is where you can find me. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the page, and hit the notification bell, and that will let you know when we're going to go live. Like the video, not the page. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. And of course, subscribe to locals community if you want to support us over there. All right. The public polling project is doing fantastic. We have hit the mark for this poll. If you want to contribute still, you absolutely can. We will forward that over to the next poll. Maybe this will be monthly. Maybe I once again underestimated.
Wouldn't be the first time. Laura
Wouldn't
was
be the
right.
first time. But I thought seasonally, you know? I mean, I figured once people saw that goal, then that would be it. It would slow down.
Look, they also
But it
know
hasn't.
that you don't abuse the money that they give you. So
This is why I love this thing. Give. Thank you. Who suggested Give?
Oh man, now I forgot her name. I'm usually good with
Somebody
that.
on Local
I think
suggested
Christine.
Thank you, Christine, because as you all know, I hated going over the financials on Friday. Like, it just went to PayPal and Venmo. It drove me nuts. I wanted it to be transparent like this. Like, it was transparent. Of course, it was more transparent than freaking news outlets are, but I wanted it to be where anybody could go openly, not wait for a Friday episode of Inside the Numbers, but openly could go to a page and see how much we raised, what the goal is, what we were charging, what we were saying we were going to give in return. This is fantastic. It really is. I'm in love with it. And it looks like a GoFundMe experience. You have the cause on the left. You have the, if you're on a big enough screen. If not, it's mobile. I'm sure it's one after the other. You have the cause. You have the donor wall. Donors can make themselves anonymous. They can leave comments. It's great. This is exactly what I wanted. So thank you, Christine, for give and hat tip to Give WP.
Very.
You created a great
beautiful.
plugin. Great plugin.
Beautiful.
Really is. No
Even
wonder.
the code was pretty.
The code, and you know me and my code. It's like, don't leave a white space on my website. Don't leave any white space, man. All right.
The nerd in him is really bad when it comes to
Yeah, well,
code.
when they said learn the code, I took them seriously.
Yes, you did.
And I learned it. All right, so with that, we're out. We love you guys. See you on Friday. Woo woo. Woo woo.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night. Just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker.